Once upon a time in the city of Birmingham, Alabama, there lived a young nurse named Naomi Wells. She didn't talk much. She didn't like to argue or gossip. She didn't wear loud makeup or chase attention like some of the other nurses did. But she was always the first to arrive at the hospital and the last to leave. People called her boring. Some even laughed behind her back. But Naomi didn't mind. She believed that doing her job well was more important than anything else. Her mother always told her, "If you care for others with clean hands and a clean heart, God will reward you." So Naomi carried those words like a song in her heart. She worked at Mercy Hill Medical Center, a tall brick building in the heart of Birmingham, where rich and important people came when they were sick. Most of the staff tried to impress the VIP patients. But Naomi was the same with everybody, from the mayor's cousin to the janitor's wife. She talked gently, cleaned wounds carefully, and always made sure the old patients took their medicine on time. One evening, the clouds were heavy. The rain had started to fall like it was angry with the earth. The wind pushed against the windows, and thunder growled in the distance. Naomi had just finished checking a patient's IV when the emergency bell rang loudly through the hallway. "Prepare the VIP room!" Nurse Ada shouted, holding a walkie-talkie. "We're getting a special case. Big one." The nurses rushed like ants. Some started spraying perfume in the hallway. Others adjusted their hair and makeup. But Naomi walked calmly to the ICU wing. Minutes later, a black Cadillac Escalade stopped right in front of the emergency entrance. Two men jumped out, followed by another man with dark glasses and a walkie-talkie. A stretcher was pulled out. On it lay a man with tubes in his nose and blood on his white shirt. His eyes were shut. His chest rose slowly. "Is that who I think it is?" Nurse Funk whispered, eyes wide. "Mr. Elijah Moore," another nurse said, blinking. "The Steel Baron, the one with 3 mansions in Mountain Brook, the one whose family fought in court last year." The whole hallway froze. The doctors ran to him. The head nurse herself came downstairs. There were whispers, phone calls, and tension in the air. But in all the noise, the only thing clear was this: the man might not survive the night. They placed him in the special ICU suite. Doctors worked fast. Machines beeped. The head nurse called for extra staff. But by midnight, the hallway was silent again. Visitors were told to leave. Security guards stood by the door. Nurses took turns watching over him. By 2 a.m., most had gone to rest. But Naomi was still awake. She sat quietly by the edge of the bed. She looked at the man's face. There was a long scar near his eyebrow. His beard was gray. His lips were dry. She dipped cotton in warm water and cleaned the blood near his nose. As she worked, the door opened. The head nurse stepped in and paused. "You're still here?" she asked. Naomi nodded. "He hasn't moved at all. I'm watching his vitals." The head nurse looked at her for a moment. "You're a strange girl, Naomi," she said. "You don't even flinch around people like him. Do you know how powerful this man is?" "I just see a sick man," Naomi said quietly. The head nurse didn't reply. She walked out again. Naomi stayed. She stayed until the rain stopped. She stayed until the birds outside began to sing. She stayed until the clock ticked past 6 a.m., and then something happened. The man's fingers twitched. Naomi jumped to her feet. His eyes opened slowly. They were weak and dull, but they looked straight at her. His lips moved. No sound came out. She leaned in. "Do you know your name?" she asked gently. He blinked once. She placed a hand on his shoulder. You're in the hospital. Mercy Hill Medical Center. You came in last night. You were unconscious. Can you speak? His voice was dry, cracked. Water. She brought the straw to his lips and helped him take a few sips. He coughed lightly, then whispered, Who are you? I'm Naomi. I'm a nurse. I've been watching over you. He stared at her, not with fear, not with pride, but with something in between. Then he said, Don't let them near me. She blinked. Who? Anyone. Them. My people, staff, family. I don't trust them. There was a long silence. He looked away, then back at her. You're the only one who sat with me. Naomi didn't know what to say. She just nodded. Then he whispered, I want you to stay. I'll inform the head nurse, she said gently. No, he said, stronger this time. Just you, please. She looked into his tired eyes. All right, she said softly. I'll stay. From that moment, everything changed. The next day, his family arrived. 3 men in suits, a woman in high heels with a scarf covering her face. They demanded to see him. The head nurse tried to explain that he needed rest, but Elijah Moore refused to open his door. When they insisted, his voice was heard from inside. If it's not Nurse Naomi, I don't want to see anybody. The head nurse turned to her. What did you do to him? I only stayed, Naomi replied. From that day, Naomi was the only one allowed in his room. She fed him, changed his IV, listened to him speak in broken whispers. He didn't talk much about money or business. He didn't brag. Instead, he asked her about her life, her family, why she became a nurse. Because my mother died when I was small, Naomi told him one evening. She bled too much during childbirth. They said if someone had reached the hospital earlier, she would have lived. So I promised to help people live, even if I couldn't save her. He looked at her for a long time. Then he whispered, You're not like them. Like who? She asked. The others. The ones who smile but hide knives behind their backs. She didn't answer. But deep inside, something in her heart was beginning to stir. She didn't know what it was. Not yet. All she knew was that this man, this rich and powerful man who had the whole city at his feet, had chosen her. Not for her beauty, not for her fame, but for something simpler. Her presence, her silence, her heart. And on the 7th day, he said something strange. Naomi, he said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you believe in second chances? She looked at him. Yes, I do. He closed his eyes. Then I need yours. The room smelled like mint and medicine. Soft beeping from the heart monitor filled the air. The morning sun pushed through the window blinds, casting thin golden lines on the tiled floor. Naomi sat on a small chair next to Elijah Moore's bed, holding a warm towel. She gently wiped his face as he lay still with tired eyes. Do you believe in second chances? He had asked. Yes, I do, Naomi had answered without thinking twice. Then he had closed his eyes and whispered, Then I need yours. Now, hours later, he hadn't said a word. He just stared at the ceiling like he was talking to someone no one else could see. Naomi adjusted the blanket on him and stood up to check the IV. She didn't know what he meant, but something in her heart told her not to ask yet. It was like waiting for rain in dry season. It would come, but only when the sky was ready. Suddenly, he spoke again. Do you know what it's like? He said in a low voice. To sleep in a house full of people and still feel alone? Naomi looked at him. She wasn't sure if he was asking her or just talking to himself. He turned his head slowly and met her eyes. You don't. You still smile like someone who has peace. Naomi took a deep breath. Sometimes I cry when I'm alone, sir. I just don't do it in front of people. A small corner of his mouth moved. Not a full smile, just a flicker. Good, he said. That means you still feel. I stopped crying 30 years ago. There was a silence. Then he asked, Naomi, do you know who I am? Yes, sir, she replied gently. You're Mr. Elijah Moore, Moore Steel and Construction. You own one of the biggest companies in the South. You're very rich. Is that all? He stared at her a while longer, then looked away. Then you don't know me at all. That's good. He reached for her hand, his fingers shaking. Don't believe what they tell you about me. I don't listen to gossip, Naomi said, placing her other hand on top of his. Don't trust them either, he said, voice trembling slightly. They're smiling now, but they're waiting, like vultures, for me to stop breathing. She stayed quiet. His grip on her hand grew tighter. They will come, he said, pretending to care. Some will cry, some will shout, but they all want the same thing. My name, my land, my signature. I don't want anything from you, sir. I know, he whispered, finally letting go of her hand. That's why you're the only one I trust. Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. Naomi looked up. Nurse Ada opened the door slightly and peeped in. Naomi, she whispered. His son is here, and his lawyer. They want to see him. Naomi turned to look at Elijah Moore. His jaw tightened. His chest moved a little faster. Tell them I'm asleep, he said. But, sir? Tell them I said no. Ada blinked, then looked at Naomi. The head nurse said, Get out, Elijah Moore said sharply. Ada froze for a second, then slowly closed the door. Elijah took a deep breath. I warned them. I said I don't want to see anyone. I meant it. Naomi stepped closer. Maybe they care, sir. He gave a dry laugh. Care? My first son hasn't visited me in 2 years. Now he shows up with a lawyer. What do you think he came for? Hugs? I don't know, sir, she said quietly. Exactly. You don't know, he said, his voice rising a little. But I do. I know what they're capable of. I built everything with my hands. They just want to sign papers and take it all. Naomi didn't answer. She sat back down and folded her hands on her lap. Elijah Moore looked at her again. Do you think I'm a bad man? She looked up, surprised. No, sir. I've done things, he said slowly. Things I'm not proud of, but one thing I regret. One thing I wish I could undo. His voice trailed off. He turned his head to the window. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, hearing her voice, hearing her laugh. And then I remember. I let her go. I chose money. I chose power. And now I'm dying with all of it, but without her. Naomi frowned gently. Who is she? He blinked slowly. I'll tell you soon, but first, I need to be sure. Sure of what? Sure that you're the one. The one for what, sir? But he didn't answer. He just closed his eyes and whispered, Watch them, Naomi. Watch how they start to come around now. You'll see what I mean. And he was right. That same afternoon, the door knocked again. This time, a different nurse opened it without asking. Behind her stood a tall man in a designer suit. His face was sharp. His eyes were cold. He didn't wait to be invited in. Dad, he said, stepping into the room. It's me, Marcus. Elijah Moore turned his head, but didn't say a word. Dad, I flew in from New York, the man continued. They told me you weren't doing well. I said I don't want to see anyone. Elijah Moore cut in. Marcus forced a smile. Come on, Dad. Don't be like this. I'm not your project. Get out. Dad, please. Naomi stood up. Sir, maybe you should let him speak. Naomi, the old man said slowly. Please ask him to leave. Marcus's face changed. He turned to Naomi. Excuse me, who even are you? Are you his nurse or his wife? Naomi didn't answer. She just looked down. I'm his nurse, she said softly. Well, then act like one and leave us to talk. But Elijah Moore raised his hand. If she leaves, he said coldly, you leave too. Marcus clenched his jaw. You're being unfair. No, Marcus, he said. I'm being wise. Marcus laughed bitterly and turned to leave. At the door, he paused and looked back. He's dying, and he's giving his heart to a nurse. Then he walked out and slammed the door behind him. Naomi sat down again. Elijah Moore stared at the ceiling. They think they know me, he said, but they only know what I let them see. He looked at Naomi with sad eyes. You remind me of her. Who? Grace? Silence. Naomi waited, but he didn't say more. The next day, it got worse. His second son came, then a cousin, then a politician friend, then 2 pastors, then a man who said he was a doctor from overseas. They all came. They all asked to see him. He refused them all, except Naomi. Why me? She finally asked on the 3rd day. He looked at her with those tired eyes again. Because you listen, because you care, not because of what I have, but because I'm human. She didn't know what to say. Later that night, as she adjusted his pillow, he spoke again. Naomi, do you believe in secrets? I think everyone has one, she said. He nodded. Mine has been locked away for 28 years, but it's time. Time for what? To tell someone, to fix what I broke, to right a wrong. She looked at him closely. His hand reached out and gently tapped the table beside him. There's a bag under this bed, he said. She bent down and pulled out a small black leather bag. Open it. She opened the zipper. Inside was a brown envelope thick with papers. On top of the papers was a silver key. Next to it, an old photograph of a young woman holding a baby. Naomi stared. That's her, he said. That's Grace, the only woman I ever loved. She touched the photo carefully. She's beautiful. She was more than that, he said. She was everything, but I left her. I left her because my family said she wasn't good enough. Because she didn't come from money. Because I was weak. He looked away. I gave her a house far from the city. I thought it would keep her safe. I promised to return, but I never did. He looked back at Naomi. His eyes were red. She was carrying my child when I left. Naomi gasped quietly. You had a child with her? He nodded. A daughter. Her heart beat faster. What happened to them? I don't know, he said. I've tried to find them. I've paid people. I've searched. Nothing. And now I'm dying. Naomi was quiet. She didn't know what to say. Her mind was spinning. He pointed at the key. That's the key to the house in Ashfield. That's where she stayed. I need you to go there. Me? Yes. You. She held the key in her hand, confused. Why me, sir? Because I trust you. Because you'll do it with clean hands. Not for money, not for name, but for truth. Naomi sat down slowly. She stared at the photo again. What if they're gone? She asked. Then at least I tried, he whispered. At least I didn't take the secret to my grave. He closed his eyes. I have so much, but I feel empty. I have cars, houses, land, but no peace. I want peace, Naomi. I want to see her face again, or my daughter's, before I go. Naomi looked at the photo once more, and in that moment, something inside her changed. She didn't know what she was stepping into. She didn't know who she would find or what she would discover. But she knew one thing. She couldn't say no. The photo was still in Naomi's hand. The woman in it had a soft smile and gentle eyes. Her dress was simple, her hair pulled back in a modest bun. The baby in her arms was wrapped in a thin blanket, sleeping with its mouth slightly open. Naomi stared at the picture for a long time. Elijah Moore was breathing heavily on the bed beside her. The silver key lay beside the envelope. The sun outside had gone down, and the room was now filled with a soft, golden lamp glow. "You really want me to go to Ashfield?" Naomi asked quietly. "Yes," he said. His voice was rough. "You must." She looked at him. "But, sir, I'm a nurse. I'm not. Why not send someone from your family? Or a lawyer?" He turned his face slowly toward her. His eyes were glassy. "They'll ruin it." "Ruin what?" The chance. The chance to fix what I broke. They don't understand love. They only understand land and cars. You've seen it, Naomi. You saw it when Marcus barged in here. Did he look like someone who wanted his father back? Or someone who came to collect? Naomi stayed quiet. She remembered Marcus's eyes, sharp and cold. The way he had looked at her like she didn't belong. She had seen it. "You still haven't told me everything," Naomi said softly. "What am I going there to do? Just find her?" "Not just find her," he said. "Find out if she's still alive. If not, find my daughter, that child in the photo." Naomi frowned. "But what if they've moved away?" "Then go to the house. Use the key. Everything is still there. Maybe letters. Maybe something she left behind. I told the caretaker to keep it clean. No one has touched it in years." "Why didn't you go yourself?" He gave a weak, bitter laugh. "I couldn't. Pride, shame, and later, sickness." He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "I thought I had time." Naomi sighed. "I don't even know what to say to her, sir. What if she slams the door in my face? What if she hates you?" He nodded. "She has every right to, but I need to try. Naomi, I don't want to die without trying." Naomi looked at the photo again. "You said you tried to find her before," she said. "Why didn't it work?" "I sent men," he said. "Cold men with money in their hands and lies in their mouths. She probably hid from them. I would have too. And this time, you want to send me. You're the only one she would believe," he said, his voice cracking. "You carry no pride, no threat, just truth." Naomi stood up slowly. She walked across the room and looked out the window. The night had deepened. The city lights blinked in the distance like stars that had fallen too close. She turned back to him. "And if I go, and I find her, what should I tell her?" "Tell her I never stopped thinking about her, that I never stopped loving her, that I was a coward." Naomi's heart tightened a little. He continued. "And if she's gone, find my daughter. Tell her who she is. Tell her I was wrong, but I wanted her to know." He coughed, a deep, painful cough that rattled through his chest. Naomi rushed to his side and supported him. She adjusted the pillows, wiped his mouth, checked the oxygen level. "You're not strong enough for all this talking, sir." He grabbed her wrist gently. "Promise me." "Sir? Naomi, promise me." She swallowed. "I promise." He let go of her hand and leaned back. "You'll need to leave soon," he said, "before they start watching you." She blinked. "Watching me?" "They're already suspicious," he whispered. They know something is going on. My sons, my cousin Robert, even the lawyer, they see you coming in and out of this room. They'll try to stop you. Why? Because if you find her and she brings proof, they lose everything. Naomi felt a shiver run down her spine. She looked down at the envelope again. What's inside this? Papers, property documents, DNA test request, a handwritten letter. I was writing it before I collapsed. It's not finished, but it's all I have. Naomi placed the envelope back into the bag. She zipped it up and stood still for a moment. Then she looked at him. I need a few days off. He nodded. I'll speak to the head nurse. No, she said. That will draw attention. I'll call in sick. He gave a faint smile. You're smarter than I thought. Naomi walked to the cabinet and pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking. I've never done anything like this, she said. This is not just about medicine. This is something else. I know, he said. She turned back to him. I'll go in the morning. First thing. He closed his eyes, and for the first time since she met him, a small tear rolled down his cheek. Thank you, Naomi. But before she could reply, the door burst open. Marcus stood there again. Behind him was another man in a gray suit. He held a small black folder in his hand. What's going on? Marcus asked, stepping forward. Dad, why is she still here? What is she doing? Naomi quickly placed the bag under the chair. She's my nurse, Elijah Moore said, coughing. She's more than that, obviously, Marcus snapped. We've been waiting outside for over 30 minutes. I didn't ask you to wait, his father said. Marcus stepped closer. This is ridiculous. I brought the lawyer. You need to sign the update on your will. I'm not signing anything today, Elijah Moore said. You've been delaying this for weeks. I said no. Naomi stood up. Maybe I should go. No, Elijah Moore said. Yes, Marcus said at the same time. The two men stared at each other. Then the man in the gray suit cleared his throat. Sir, we just need a few signatures for the hospital bills. We can leave the will for later. Elijah Moore looked at him. Give the papers to Naomi. The lawyer blinked. Sir, give the papers to Naomi. She'll check them first. Marcus looked like he was about to explode. Dad, what's wrong with you? But the older man didn't even turn to him. I trust her more than I trust my own blood, he said. The lawyer, looking very uncomfortable, placed the folder on the table and slowly backed away. Marcus stepped forward and slammed his palm on the table. This is madness. Naomi kept her eyes on the floor. Elijah Moore turned to Marcus. When I die, you'll get what you deserve. But don't try to cheat me while I'm still breathing. Marcus's mouth opened, then closed. He turned around and walked out. The lawyer followed. The door slammed shut again. Silence. Naomi reached for the folder and placed it in the drawer. She turned to him. What if they follow me? He looked at her, eyes serious. Don't use your real name when you get to Ashfield. Don't talk to anyone about why you're there. Go straight to the address. Use the key. Lock the door behind you. Her heart was beating fast. Okay. He reached under his pillow and brought out a small plastic bag. Inside it was some cash and a folded paper. That's for transport. Use the details on the paper to find the caretaker. His name is Clarence. She took it. Then he lay back slowly. I'm tired. She covered him with the blanket. Rest, sir. Call me Elijah, he whispered. She paused, then nodded. Rest, Elijah. As she walked out of the room with the bag, the photo, the envelope, and the key in her small purse, she had no idea her life was about to change forever. Naomi didn't sleep that night. She sat on her narrow bed in the small apartment she rented near the hospital, staring at the brown envelope on the table. The photo of Grace and the baby was next to it, face up. The silver key lay beside the photo. Everything looked still, but her heart was loud. Outside, the city of Birmingham was quiet, but inside her head, voices were shouting. Why are you doing this? What if it's a trap? What if they find out? What if the woman is already dead? What if the daughter doesn't even want to be found? She closed her eyes and remembered the man's face. Elijah Moore, or just Elijah now? His eyes had been clear. Not like a man chasing money, but like a man trying to breathe before it was too late. He wasn't faking it. She could feel it. He was scared. He was sorry. And he wanted peace. So before dawn, Naomi packed a small travel bag. Just 2 dresses, a notepad, a power bank, a scarf, and the most important things: the key, the photo, the envelope, and the address. She left a text for the head nurse saying she had a medical emergency at home and needed 2 days off. By 6:30 a.m., she was at the Greyhound bus terminal. It was busy. Drivers shouting names of towns, passengers dragging bags, a baby crying in the corner, a woman selling fried pies under a red umbrella. Everything moved fast. She held the paper tight in her hand and looked for the line that said, Ashfield. Ashfield, ma'am! Ashfield, this way! A conductor shouted, waving his hand. She followed. The bus was old. The windows were cracked. The seats were torn. But it didn't matter. Her mind was heavier than the heat inside the bus. She sat at the back and looked out the window. The engine started, and they moved. The city faded slowly. Tall buildings turned to small houses. Roads turned to narrow paths. The bus bounced over potholes. Dust filled the air. She didn't speak to anyone. She didn't eat. She just kept thinking about what she would find in Ashfield. 4 hours later, the driver shouted, Last stop! Naomi stepped out. The sun hit her face. Her throat was dry. Her legs were stiff. Ashfield was quiet. No paved roads, just red dirt and scattered houses made of brick and weathered wood. Chickens walked freely. 2 dogs lay under a shade tree. Children played with old tires. Women balanced baskets on their hips. She walked straight to the small diner by the roadside and pulled out the paper. Clarence, she said to the old man frying chicken. Do you know someone called Clarence? The man looked up slowly, eyes squinting. Clarence the welder or Clarence the caretaker? Caretaker. He pointed down a path. Second house after the well, the green one. She nodded. Thank you. As she walked, people looked at her. Her dress was too clean, her shoes too modern, her eyes too curious. She didn't belong, and they could tell. She reached the green house and knocked gently. A man in his 60s opened the door. His face was tired, his hands rough. Yes? Are you Mr. Clarence? Who's asking? She opened her bag and showed him the photo. I came from Birmingham. Mr. Elijah Moore sent me. He stared at the photo. His face changed. You need to come inside, he said. She entered. The room was small but neat. A standing fan turned slowly in the corner. There was a calendar on the wall from 2019, and on a wooden table sat a Bible and a black radio. He sat down. You said Elijah sent you. Yes, he's very sick. Clarence nodded slowly. I knew this day would come. You were the caretaker. I still am. I visit once every week. Sweep. Clean the compound. No one lives there. She opened her bag and pulled out the key. He nodded again. That's the one. Can you take me there? He stood up. Now? Yes. He grabbed an old cap and stepped outside. They walked in silence, past farms, past a school with children shouting multiplication tables, past a church with broken glass. Finally, they reached the edge of the town. There, behind a line of tall bushes, was a quiet compound. The gate was rusty. The walls were faded cream. Clarence pulled out his own key and unlocked the gate. They stepped in. The grass had been cut. The path swept. But the air felt still, like time had paused. Naomi walked up to the front door. Her fingers shook as she placed the silver key in the lock. Turned. She pushed the door open. A smell of dust and wood filled her nose. The living room was simple. A brown sofa. A table with a crocheted cloth. A curtain made of cotton fabric. Everything looked untouched, but clean, as if someone had just stepped out and never returned. Did she live here long? Naomi asked. Grace? Clarence nodded. Yes, almost 3 years. And then she left one day. Just left. No goodbye. Naomi walked slowly to the shelf near the wall. There were framed photos. Grace holding the baby. Grace sitting by a tree. Grace smiling with someone cropped out of the frame. She never came back? Never, Clarence said. Did anyone look for her? Some men came, sharp suits from Birmingham asking questions. She hid. After that, she packed and left. Naomi sat down. Did she ever say where she was going? No. Naomi pulled out the envelope and placed it on the table. She opened it and removed the handwritten letter. The words were shaky, some lines unfinished. She read it slowly. It said, "To the woman I never stopped loving. I made the biggest mistake of my life when I walked away. They told me you were beneath me, but I see now I was the one beneath you. You gave me a daughter, and I gave you nothing back but silence. I want to fix that. Please forgive me. Elijah." Her throat tightened. She folded the letter and placed it back. Is there anything she left behind? Clarence nodded. There's a room. She locked it before she left. I never opened it. Where is it? He led her to the end of the hallway, a plain wooden door. Naomi brought out the key again and tried it. Clicked. The door opened. Inside, the air was thick. Dust danced in the sunlight. The bed was made. A small drawer stood beside it. On top of the drawer was a scarf, the same one from the photo. Naomi stepped in. The walls had pictures drawn by a child. Flowers, the sun, a man holding a woman's hand. She opened the drawer. Inside were letters, dozens, all addressed to Elijah Moore, Birmingham, Alabama. None had been sent. She picked one. You left. I waited. I believed your words. But the days passed, and our daughter asked every day, "Where is Daddy?" I couldn't answer. Naomi's hands trembled. She opened another. Your men came today. They offered money, but not truth. I won't let them touch what's mine. I won't let them take my daughter. Naomi blinked back tears. She turned to Clarence. She was angry, but she still loved him. He nodded. Yes. Naomi looked around again. There, in the corner, was a wooden box. She opened it. Inside were baby clothes, a small pink shoe, a doll with one eye missing, and under it all, a birth certificate. She pulled it out. Her heart stopped. Name, Leah Grace Harris. Date of birth, July 12th, 1994. Father, Elijah Moore. Mother, Grace Harris. She covered her mouth. She's real, Naomi whispered. She's alive. She has a name. Clarence looked over her shoulder. That's her. Yes. Naomi stared at the paper. I need to find her, Clarence. That will be hard. Why? Because Ashfield doesn't talk. People here mind their business. But maybe. What? There's someone who might know. Miss Thelma. She used to help Grace. If anyone saw where she went, it would be her. Where is she? 3 houses from the well. Ask for the one with the red goat. Naomi grabbed the certificate, folded it gently, and placed it in her bag. Let's go. The sun was high now, burning hot over Ashfield. The red earth shimmered as if it were alive. Naomi walked beside Clarence, her bag pressed against her side, the folded birth certificate inside like a heartbeat. She tried not to look at the curious faces staring from doorways. Every step felt heavier than the last. Are you sure she'll talk to me? Naomi asked quietly. Clarence adjusted his cap. Miss Thelma is old, but she remembers everything. If she liked Grace, she might help you. If she doesn't, she'll close the door. Naomi swallowed. I don't have much time. You'll need patience, Clarence said. This town moves slow. They turned down a narrow path lined with honeysuckle bushes. Chickens scattered. A child ran past with a stick and a plastic wheel. Up ahead was a small compound with peeling white paint. A red goat tied to a tree chewed lazily at the grass. The smell of smoke drifted from a clay oven. That's her house, Clarence said. Naomi stopped at the gate. Her heart was beating fast. Do I knock? She whispered. Yes, knock. She raised her hand and tapped on the wooden gate. No answer. She tapped again. This time, an old woman's voice came from inside. Who is it? It's someone looking for Miss Thelma, Naomi said softly. The gate creaked open. An old woman stepped out slowly, leaning on a carved walking stick. Her head was wrapped in a faded blue scarf. Her eyes were sharp like 2 small lanterns. I'm Miss Thelma, she said. Who are you? I'm Naomi. I came from Birmingham. I'm looking for Grace. The old woman's face froze. She looked at Naomi from head to toe, then at Clarence. What is this? I brought her, Clarence said quietly. She's from Elijah. Miss Thelma's eyes narrowed. Elijah Moore. Naomi nodded. He's very sick. He asked me to find Grace. Miss Thelma's grip on her stick tightened. Too late, she said. Naomi's stomach dropped. Too late? She's dead? The old woman turned and walked slowly back into the yard. Come inside, she said. Naomi and Clarence followed her into a small sitting room. The walls were painted cream but cracked in places. A wooden chair stood by the window. A sewing machine sat in the corner. Miss Thelma sat down heavily. Close the door, she said. Naomi closed it. The old woman stared at her for a long time. So, Elijah finally remembered her. Naomi nodded. He never forgot her. Miss Thelma gave a dry laugh. He forgot her every day he didn't come? He said he was ashamed, Naomi said softly. He said he was weak. The old woman shook her head. That man destroyed her. Naomi sat on the edge of a stool. Please tell me what happened. Miss Thelma looked at her hands. Grace came here when she was still young. She was beautiful, smart. She could have married anyone in this town, but she fell for Elijah. He was already rich then. He promised her the world. He gave her a house. He gave her a baby. Then he left. Naomi's throat tightened. He said he planned to return. He didn't, the old woman said flatly. Men from the city came. They brought papers. They brought lies. She was alone. She had to hide. Did she ever speak badly about him? She cried for him, Miss Thelma said, her voice softening. She prayed for him, even when she was angry. She said he was lost. Naomi blinked back tears. And then? She raised the child, Miss Thelma continued. She called her Leah, a bright girl, but Leah was always asking about her father. Grace didn't know what to say. The girl started to hate the name more. Naomi reached into her bag and pulled out the birth certificate. I found this in the house. Miss Thelma glanced at it and nodded slowly. That's hers. Where is she now? Naomi asked. Where is Leah? Miss Thelma's eyes narrowed again. Why? Because Elijah is dying, Naomi said. He wants to see her. He wants to tell her the truth. The old woman's lips pressed together. Truth, that word. Too late for truth. It's not too late, Naomi said. He's still alive. Miss Thelma leaned forward. And you think Leah will forgive him? After all these years? After all the lies? She's not a child anymore. She's a woman, and she's angry. Even angry people deserve to know who they are, Naomi said quietly. The old woman stared at her for a long time. You're not like the others, she said finally. You're not a lawyer or a spy. You're not here for money. I'm not, Naomi said. I'm just a nurse. He trusted me. Miss Thelma was quiet. Then she said, Leah lives in the next town now. She works at a small clinic. She doesn't use Moore as her name. She calls herself Leah Harris. She never speaks about him. Naomi's heart jumped. Do you have her address? I do, Miss Thelma said slowly. But if I give it to you, what will you do? I'll go to her, Naomi said. I'll tell her everything. I'll bring her to him. Miss Thelma's eyes were sad. And if she refuses? Then at least she will know, Naomi said. The old woman looked at Clarence, then back at Naomi. Finally, she reached under her wrapper and pulled out a small piece of paper. She placed it on the table. That's where she works, she said. Don't tell her I sent you. I won't, Naomi said. Miss Thelma leaned back. Be careful. She's strong. She doesn't trust easily. And if Elijah's family finds out what you're doing... I'll be careful, Naomi said. Thank you. The old woman nodded. I loved Grace like a daughter. When you see Leah, tell her that. Tell her Miss Thelma still prays for her. I will, Naomi said. She folded the paper and placed it in her bag. As she stood up, Miss Thelma grabbed her wrist. One more thing. Don't go at night. Leave at first light, and don't tell anyone where you're going. I understand, Naomi said. The old woman let go. Outside, the sky had begun to turn orange. The red goat bleated softly. Clarence walked ahead in silence. Naomi followed, her mind spinning. When they reached the main road, Clarence stopped. You found what you came for? I think so, Naomi said. You're going to find the daughter? Yes. Clarence looked at her carefully. This road you're walking, it's not safe. I don't care, Naomi said. It's not about me. He gave a small nod. Then may God guide you. He turned and walked away down another path. Naomi stood alone, holding her bag. The town felt different now, not just quiet, watchful. She could feel eyes on her from behind windows. Maybe it was just her imagination, or maybe Marcus's men were already here. She walked quickly back to the compound where Grace once lived. She shut the door behind her and sat on the bed in the locked room. She unfolded the piece of paper from Miss Thelma. It had a name and a clinic address scribbled in shaky handwriting. She stared at it. Leah Harris. She whispered the name softly. Then she took out her phone and tried to call Elijah. No answer. She tried again. Still no answer. Her chest tightened. Was he worse? Was someone stopping him from picking up? She put the phone down and covered her face with her hands. She felt the weight of everything pressing down on her. She thought about her mother, about the promise she made to help people. And now, here she was, in a stranger's room, holding another stranger's life in her hands. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was deep purple now. A few stars had appeared. "I'll find you," she whispered. "I'll find you, Leah, even if it's the last thing I do." She closed the curtain and turned back to the bed. She sat down again, the birth certificate and the address on the table, the key in her hand. Tomorrow she would leave Ashfield. Tomorrow she would step into a storm she couldn't yet see. But tonight, she would gather her strength, because the road ahead would be harder than anything she had faced before. The next morning came with no rooster crowing, just the sound of Naomi's phone vibrating under her pillow. She sat up quickly. A text. It was from one of the junior nurses at the hospital. "Where are you?" Chief's condition got worse last night. Head nurse is panicking. Nobody's allowed inside his room anymore. Naomi's heart dropped. She held the phone tightly and read the message again. "Worse," she quickly typed back. "Is he still alive?" A reply came a moment later. "Yes, but sedated. Marcus has taken control. He's blocking visitors. Even the head nurse said it's to protect his father." Naomi's fingers froze. She looked at the brown envelope on the table, then at the small note with Leah Harris's clinic address. Time was running out. She threw on her dress, tied her scarf, packed her things, and locked the house behind her. She stopped only to thank Clarence again, leaving a simple note for him under the gate. "Thank you. Pray for me." By 9 a.m., she was on a motorbike heading to the next town. The wind slapped her face. Dust got into her eyes, but she didn't blink. She held the bag tightly with both arms. At the town's edge, the rider stopped. "This is the clinic," he said. It was a small building painted white with blue letters over the entrance. Grace and Mercy Medical Center. It didn't look fancy, just honest. Naomi paid the rider and stepped inside. The waiting area had only 3 plastic chairs. A mother rocked a baby on one. A young boy sat on the floor with a bandaged leg. A woman in a nurse uniform looked up from the desk. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Naomi cleared her throat. "I'm looking for Nurse Leah Harris." The woman blinked. "Why?" "I need to speak with her. It's very personal." "She's attending to a patient. Please wait." Naomi sat down. Her palms were sweating. What if Leah didn't believe her? What if she got angry? What if she refused to come? Minutes passed. Then the door behind the desk opened, and there she was. Nurse Leah. The same eyes as Grace, the same gentle mouth, but stronger now, older, more guarded. She looked at Naomi carefully. "You asked for me?" "Yes." Naomi stood up. "Can we talk?" Leah frowned. "Who are you?" "My name is Naomi Wells. I'm a nurse too, from Birmingham." Leah folded her arms. "And?" "I came to speak to you about your father." Leah's face didn't change. "I don't have a father." "You do," Naomi said softly. "His name is Elijah Moore." A long silence filled the room. Leah turned to the other nurse. "Take over the front." Then she walked into the side room without saying another word. Naomi followed. Inside, the room was small. A desk, 2 chairs, a shelf with medicines, a small fan humming in the corner. Leah sat down. "Talk quickly." Naomi sat across from her. She pulled out the envelope, opened it, laid the birth certificate on the table, then the photo of Grace holding baby Leah. "I went to Ashfield," Naomi said. "I went to the house your mother lived in. I met Miss Thelma. I found this." Leah stared at the photo. She didn't speak. He's dying, Naomi said. Your father. He's very sick. He sent me to find your mother. But she's dead. 6 years now? Leah said quietly. Naomi nodded. I'm sorry. Leah's fingers touched the photo, then pulled away. He sent people before, she said. Men in suits talking nonsense? I told them I didn't want his money. I'm not here for money, Naomi said. He didn't send money this time. He sent me. Leah looked at her. Why? Because I'm a nurse, and I stayed with him when no one else would. He told me about you. He regrets everything. Too late. Naomi nodded slowly. Maybe, but he still wants to see you. Leah stood up, pacing now. You know how many nights I watched my mother cry? You know how many lies she had to cover, just so I wouldn't hate myself for being born? I don't know, Naomi said. But I know he wants to make it right. Leah stood up, pacing now. I built this clinic from nothing, she said. I used to beg in the market just to buy pen and paper. I cleaned toilets to pay for nursing school. My mother didn't live to see me wear the uniform. She died with nothing. And now he wants a hug? No, Naomi said calmly. He doesn't expect a hug. He just wants a chance to look you in the eye, to say sorry with his own mouth. If that's all you let him do, that's enough. Leah turned. Her eyes were glassy now. You don't know how long I waited for him to show up. On my birthday, on graduation, when Mama was buried. He didn't come. I know, Naomi said. But now you have the power. You get to face him, not as a little girl waiting for love, but as a woman with a name, a life, and the truth. Leah sat down again. What if I go and I feel nothing? Then that's okay. They sat in silence. Then Leah whispered, If I go, we go quietly. Yes, no news, no photos. Of course. Leah looked down at the photo again. She nodded once. Let me pack a bag. The journey back to Birmingham was quiet. Leah didn't speak much. She held the photo in her lap the entire time. Once or twice, she asked questions about Elijah's health, about what he looked like now, about whether he remembered her birthday. Naomi answered what she could. The rest, she said, ask him. When they arrived at Mercy Hill Medical Center, it was almost evening. Naomi wore a scarf low over her face. Leah wore a black hoodie. They walked past the front desk, past the nurses who now gave Naomi long, suspicious looks, past the head nurse who raised her brows but said nothing. When they reached the ICU wing, 2 bodyguards stood at the entrance. We're here to see Mr. Moore, Naomi said. The guards shook their heads. No one's allowed in. Naomi brought out her badge. I'm his nurse. One of the guards made a call, nodded. Only you, he said. Not her. I don't go in. She doesn't go in, Naomi said. Orders are orders. Just then, a loud voice echoed behind them. What is this? It was Marcus. His tie was loose, his face sharp with anger. What are you doing here? He snapped at Naomi. Didn't I tell you to stay away? You don't give orders here, Naomi said calmly. I'm his son. I'm his nurse. Marcus stepped forward. Who's this? He pointed at Leah. No one you need to worry about. Are you bringing strangers to his bedside? She's not a stranger. Marcus looked closer. Wait, is this the woman from the village? Leah raised her head. Marcus froze. What game is this? He hissed. No game, Leah said softly. I'm Leah Grace Harris. Silence. The guards looked confused. Marcus stepped back. This is madness. Naomi stepped in front of Leah. Move, now. Marcus's mouth opened, but he saw something in Leah's eyes that made him stop. He stepped aside. They walked in. Elijah was lying on the bed, pale and still. His oxygen mask covered half his face. Naomi walked to his side. "Elijah," she said gently. "I brought her." His eyes opened slowly. They moved from Naomi to Leah. They stopped there. They did not move again. Tears filled his eyes instantly. His hand lifted shakily. Leah didn't move. He reached further and then whispered, "Grace." Leah's lips trembled. "I'm not Grace." "I know," he said, "but your eyes." She took a step forward. He reached again. This time she held his hand. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I was afraid. I was a coward." Leah didn't cry. She looked him in the eye and said, "I wanted you to come. All my life." "I should have," he said. He coughed. His whole body shook. Naomi checked his pulse. It was weak. "I'm here now," he said. "Let me look at you one last time." Leah sat beside him. He touched her hair with shaking fingers. "You look just like her." Naomi stepped back quietly. Outside, voices were rising. Marcus shouting, a nurse trying to calm him. But inside the room, the past was standing still. A father, a daughter, a broken promise, a small healing. "I can rest now," he whispered. Leah held his hand tighter. "Then rest," she said. But just as peace was falling, the door burst open. A reporter ran in with a phone camera. A security guard chased behind. "Is it true?" the reporter shouted. "Is this the secret daughter of Elijah Moore?" Leah jumped up. Naomi blocked the camera. "Get out!" More voices outside. More flashing lights. The news had leaked. The secret was no longer secret. And the storm had finally come. The camera light was still blinking. The reporter kept shouting questions. "Is it true you're Mr. Moore's daughter? How long has he known? Was she hidden from the will? Did the old man confess something before dying?" Security guards stormed in, grabbing the man and dragging him out. But it was too late. The hallway outside was full now. Other reporters had gathered like bees. Someone had tipped them off. Maybe Marcus. Maybe someone else. But the secret was no longer secret. The news was out. Leah stood frozen by the hospital bed, her face pale, her hands still shaking. Naomi quickly pulled the curtain shut and locked the door from inside. Elijah was struggling to breathe again. His eyes rolled, his chest rising and falling in shallow bursts. "Elijah!" Naomi called, rushing to his side. "Can you hear me?" He nodded faintly, his lips dry. "Don't talk," she said. "Save your strength." But he was already whispering something. She leaned in. "I wrote it," he said, "in the red folder, drawer." "What folder?" He pointed weakly to the bedside cabinet. Leah opened it. Inside was a red plastic folder sealed with a rubber band. Leah handed it to Naomi. She opened it fast. Inside were handwritten pages, each labeled Will, Final Draft. A sticky note on top read, "To my lawyer only after she comes." Naomi looked up. "He meant you." Leah stared at the papers. "He changed it." "He changed his will," Naomi said. Elijah tried to smile, but his face twisted in pain instead. His chest began to jerk. The beeping on the heart monitor grew faster. "No, no, no!" Naomi panicked. "Stay with us." Leah grabbed his hand again. "I'm here," she whispered. "I forgive you." His breathing slowed. One more deep breath, then stillness. Naomi placed 2 fingers on his neck. No pulse. She looked up at Leah. Her eyes were wet now, but steady. "He's gone." Leah closed her eyes slowly. Outside, someone banged on the door. "Open up." It was Marcus. Naomi tucked the red folder under her arm and opened the door slightly. Marcus pushed past her. He looked at the body on the bed, then at Leah. So this is what it was all about. Don't start, Naomi warned. He turned to her. You brought her here to destroy everything. She's his daughter, Naomi said firmly. You can't erase that. Marcus laughed coldly. We'll see about that. His lawyer will deal with this mess. He turned to leave, but paused. And don't think this is over. You're just a nurse. You don't know the world you're playing in. He slammed the door behind him. Naomi exhaled. He's going to fight this. Leah sat on the edge of the bed, her hand still on her father's arm. Let him. The funeral was fast. It had to be. News had spread like fire. Every blog, every paper, every TV station. Billionaire Elijah Moore dies peacefully after last-minute family reunion. Shocking revelation. Secret daughter arrives hours before death. Will war begins. More family faces new challenge. Marcus hired his own press team. He released a statement claiming the woman who visited was an imposter, that she had been planted, that she had no legal right to anything. But photos from the hospital had already leaked. Leah's face was everywhere. Some said she was after money. Others called her the true heir. But Leah herself said nothing. Not one interview, not one word to the press. She stayed with Naomi quietly in her apartment near the hospital. I don't want the world, she told Naomi. I just wanted to see his face. And now that you have? Naomi asked. I feel lighter. 2 weeks passed. The lawyers moved quickly. The red folder was validated. The signature was real. The final draft of the will listed Leah as his first biological child. She was entitled to 45% of the estate. Marcus and the other sons would share the rest. Chaos followed. Protests, court letters, accusations. Marcus called for a DNA test. It matched. He called for a second test. Same result. Then silence. He vanished from the news for days, until one morning, Leah received a knock on Naomi's door. It was Marcus. He didn't come with cameras. Just him, in jeans, eyes tired, face rough. I came to talk, he said. Leah stepped outside. Why now? I was angry. You still are? Yes, he said, but I'm not stupid. She waited. He looked at her. You look like her, he said quietly. The woman in the old photos. That was your mother. Yes. Marcus nodded. My mother hated her. I know. She used to say, your father had a weak moment with a poor girl. That's all. Leah didn't reply. I didn't believe it, he said. But I was a child. I didn't know I had a sister. She folded her arms. And now? I still don't know what to do with you, he said honestly. But you were there at the end. I wasn't. Silence stretched. Then he stepped back. The lawyer says we'll need to meet. Go over some things. I'm not fighting anymore. Just don't sell the house. The one in Mountain Brook. It was his favorite. Leah gave a small nod. Okay. He walked away slowly. A month later, the will was settled. The public lost interest. The cameras stopped coming. Leah used part of her inheritance to expand her clinic. She built a new wing, bought more beds, hired staff, put up a small photo of Grace and Elijah in the reception. She didn't change her name, didn't buy a mansion. She stayed in the same small apartment, but she smiled more. She laughed sometimes. She finally knew where she came from, and she forgave the man who left. One night, Naomi sat on her balcony holding a mug of tea. Leah came out and sat beside her. You never told me why you helped him, Leah said. Naomi sipped her tea. Because I saw something in his eyes, she said. Regret and fear and hope. I've seen many people die, Leah, but not many try to fix their soul before going. Leah nodded. You're a good person. So are you. I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. They smiled. Then Leah stood up. I'm going to bed. Naomi nodded. Good night, Miss Moore. Leah laughed softly. Don't call me that. And walked inside. The next morning, Naomi received a package. It had no name, no return address, just a black envelope and a sealed letter. She opened it. It was handwritten. To Naomi, the woman who gave me peace. Her eyes widened. It was from Elijah. She sat down and began to read. I knew I might not live long enough to say goodbye. But if you're reading this, then it means you fulfilled your promise. You brought her home. You did what no lawyer, no son, no friend could do. You saw me not as a name, but as a man. And you stayed. This world needs more hearts like yours. I didn't have much left to give, but I left something for you. Not money, not land, a small piece of land near Willow Creek, quiet, by the river. You'll find peace there, just like I did with you. Thank you, Naomi. I can rest now. Tears rolled down her face. She didn't wipe them. She just folded the letter gently and held it close. Because even though Elijah was gone, his last wish had been fulfilled. And somehow, through all the pain, something beautiful had been born. Naomi sat on the balcony for a long time after reading the letter. The sun had not yet risen. The street below was still dark and quiet, only the sound of crickets in the bushes and the far-off hum of an early bus engine. Her fingers ran over the paper again and again. She had read it 5 times, and each time felt heavier than the last. The land was real. She checked the folded map tucked inside the envelope. It showed a small plot by the riverside in Willow Creek, tucked far from the city noise. She had never owned anything before, not even a bicycle. But now she owned land. Not just land given with meaning. A thank you from a man who had nothing left but his truth. When the sun finally rose, she went inside, changed into her nurse scrubs, and walked out the door like she did every morning. But this time, her heart felt full. It wasn't money that filled it, or power. It was something more quiet, more peaceful. She had done something good, and it mattered. At the hospital, everything had returned to routine. Elijah Moore's name was no longer on the whiteboard. His file had been locked and archived. His room had been cleaned and assigned to a new patient. Staff whispered less now. The noise had passed. Only Naomi carried his memory like a soft tune in the back of her mind. Later that day, the head nurse called her into the office. You have a visitor, she said. Who? The lawyer. Naomi stepped into the small meeting room. There, waiting by the window, was Mr. Bankole, the same man who had stood beside Marcus the day everything fell apart. He turned and gave a small nod. Nurse Wells. She nodded back. He handed her a sealed brown envelope. This is from the estate, not for legal issues, just something Elijah added in his final days. Naomi opened it slowly. Inside was a document. Her name was typed at the top, Naomi Wells. It was a letter of recommendation addressed to the Alabama State Medical Board, signed in Elijah Moore's name, recommending Naomi for any higher training, hospital promotion, or leadership role of her choosing. Attached was a check, modest but real, enough to pay off her debts, enough to start something new. I thought he gave everything to his children, she said quietly. Mr. Bankole smiled. He gave his name to his children, but he gave his peace to you. Naomi looked down at the paper. She folded it, placed it back in the envelope, and nodded. Thank you. The lawyer paused at the door. You know, most people forget nurses, but he didn't. Naomi smiled gently. He couldn't. 2 weeks later, Naomi stood at the edge of the river in Willow Creek, staring at the piece of land Elijah had left her. It wasn't large, just a flat space with grass, a few trees, and a view of the calm water stretching into the horizon. She took off her shoes and stepped barefoot onto the soil. It was quiet, peaceful, a place where silence didn't feel empty. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The wind carried the scent of fresh earth and distant flowers. She imagined a small house here, a wooden chair on a porch, a breeze, a place where tired hearts could rest. When she opened her eyes, Leah was standing beside her, holding 2 plastic bags. You came? Naomi said. Of course I came. Leah smiled. You think I'd miss seeing the famous nurse's new kingdom? Naomi laughed. It's just dirt and air for now. But it's yours, Leah said. You earned it. They sat under the biggest tree, opened the bags, and began to eat fried chicken and rice from plastic containers. Do you miss him? Naomi asked after a while. Leah was quiet. Then she said, Sometimes I forget he's gone. I still expect him to call or knock or show up again, like it never happened. You loved him. I think I loved what he could have been, not who he was. Naomi nodded slowly. That makes sense. But when I touched his hand that day, Leah continued, I saw fear in his eyes, not fear of death, fear of regret. It made me feel human. It made him human too. They sat in silence, chewing slowly. A bird chirped in the branches above. Naomi wiped her hand on a napkin. What will you do with your inheritance? I already did it, Leah said. I built the children's ward at the clinic, gave some to Miss Thelma, set up a scholarship in my mother's name. Naomi smiled. You're amazing. Leah shrugged. I didn't do it for anyone to clap. I just wanted the story to end right. And did it? Leah looked at the river. I think it did. They finished eating and sat back, heads resting against the tree bark. I'm leaving the hospital soon, Naomi said softly. Leah turned. What? I want to build something here. Maybe a small healing center? Somewhere people can rest, recover. Not just their bodies, but their hearts too. Leah's eyes lit up. Like a retreat. Naomi nodded. Simple, quiet, true. I'll help you, Leah said. You don't have to. I want to. They looked at each other and smiled. 2 women, different stories, same purpose, same peace. Back in Birmingham, Marcus Moore sat alone in his father's old study. The room was untouched, books still on the shelves, pens still in the drawer. He opened the drawer and found a dusty cassette player. He turned it on. A soft voice played. It was his father, recording a message. Marcus, if you ever find this, I hope you understand. I made choices that built towers but left cracks in the ground. I hope you build differently, not higher, but better. Marcus paused the tape. He looked around the room, and for the first time, he felt something new. Not anger, not shame, but understanding. And with that understanding came a kind of peace he hadn't known before. He stood there for a long moment, the silence of the room pressing around him like a memory. Through the window, the late-day sun poured over the desk, catching the dust in the air. For the first time in years, Marcus didn't feel the weight of his father's shadow, only the quiet echo of what forgiveness could mean. Weeks later, far from the city noise, Naomi and Leah opened the small healing center they had dreamed of at Willow Creek. The sign read simply, Peace Haven. The air smelled of rain and pine. Patients came not only for medicine, but for rest, for the kind of peace that money could never buy. One afternoon, a little boy appeared at the gate, barefoot, holding a folded note that said, "I heard this is where hearts get fixed." Naomi smiled, knelt down, and took his hand. "You heard right," she said softly. As the door closed behind them, laughter drifted into the trees, and somewhere, maybe, Elijah Moore finally rested easy.